Hi there and welcome to my channel. Today's project is part of the Altenew Refresh Your Watercolor Brush Markers Block Hop and Giveaway, as Altenew is releasing an entire set of refills for the very popular watercolor brush markers. And I'm going to show you right now. I actually have all of them and they are actually very pigmented. And to my surprise, I thought I was going to get a barrel. I actually get a little bottle that you can fill your brush markers with. So it's a plastic bottle, so it's not going to break on the way to you, and it actually comes with a little the lid has a little needle that's gonna cover any spillage that might happen, which is great. I don't have the brush markers, so it was actually ideal for me to work with this. So my idea is I'm gonna show you how I create two cards using the same color scheme. So for this I am gonna use the Ornate Foliage stamp set and die, but in this case I am gonna emboss them using the Altenew embossing ink and the white powder embossing powder, on white cardstock, and I'm using heavy cardstock. This is 110 pounds cardstock. I did not want to use watercolor because I want to keep it really white. So you're gonna see I'm just stamping the images. I'm gonna stamp 3 images, 2 are the same ones, different, all from the same set, and I'm gonna emboss it, and I'm gonna actually color them. Now the palette that I chose to color these flowers is Sea Breeze, Lagoon, and Misty Mountains. I wanted to stay into the cool side, and then I added Emerald from the winter set, which also comes in the spring set. The only difference is the Emerald in the winter set is more of a cool tone, and the one in the spring set is more of a warm tone. So let me show you how I am watercoloring this, and this took me a while, so I'm going to speed it up and I'm going to cut some parts of it, just because honestly it took me almost an hour to color the 3 leaves. Now what I'm going to start with is Misty Mountain. I love one of my favorite colors of inks, so it was really easy, actually great to have them in the watercolor. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to dilute a bit of the watercolor and apply it as a base coat. And my idea is I usually, when I do this with my watercolors, I make it really light, but in this case I am not going to make it as light. I'm going to say medium pigmented, because I want to have the different colors. This stamp set is ideal for watercoloring because it has different leaves that make up the image, first of all, and the second thing is by embossing the image on the paper. One of the things is it is going to first thing create kind of a limit. It's gonna where you can add your watercolor. It's gonna give you some rays, some texture, but the best part, like I said, is just it's gonna give you, it kind of defines where you can add the watercolor, so you cannot spill after that. It kind of, the edges of the embossing kind of contain the watercolor, which is great for this type of watercoloring technique. So all I'm doing, like I said before, is I'm just adding a wash of the color to the entire leaf, and then I'm gonna come back with more of a pure pigment. So I'm just gonna pick little drops of the pigment, and this pigment or the watercolor, so it's really pigmented, so a little bit is gonna go a long way. You're gonna see that I'm gonna use, I think, 2 or 3 drops for the entire project per image. It took me, I'm gonna say maybe like 6 drops to complete the whole thing, and that's why, because it's so pigmented. So all I'm doing again is adding a color wash, not too light of a color wash, and then I'm gonna come in with little drops of the actual color just to some areas where I want to add that definition, when I want to add the shadows, and I'm gonna fan it out a little bit, and that's all it's gonna take. Again, you're gonna see that I started with Misty Mountain, and then I added Lagoon, and then after that I'm gonna bring in Sea Breeze, and I'm bringing Sea Breeze just because it brings more of a turquoisey kind of bluish tone, and I thought that was gonna help. Just with the palette I have teals and mints, so a little bit of blue is gonna help. And then just to again, I'm following the same procedure, and just to do the leaves, because even though the flower it's made out of big leaves, there's a small little branch that becomes the leaf of this image, and you gotta check this stamp. This stamp is beautiful. So for the little leaves of this image, I am actually gonna use Emerald, and you're gonna see how fast it goes to create the leaves because they're so small. All I'm gonna do is again dilute Emerald just a tiny little bit and add like a little bit onto all the leaves, and then I'm going to come in with the pure pigment and just kind of dot it inside the leaf because they're so small. That's all it's going to take to cover this flower, and I'm going to set it aside to dry. Like I said, I actually took my time to detail them. I'm gonna go on top of it with some of the pigment just to accent some of the areas that I want to have that shadow. I want to create that dimension. I don't want it to be so two-dimensional. A little bit of shading is gonna help in this, and I'm gonna set them aside to dry. Because I'm using heavy cardstock, my flowers actually did not warp. The paper did not warp. They work really nice. And this is 110 pounds cardstock. I believe it's from Michael, so nothing special. So I set them aside to dry, and while that was drying, I went and cut. This is actually mixed media paper, and I created 2 cards because they're different sizes. I think they are 4 by 5. 3 3/4 by 5. So there are different size cards. So I want to create my watercolor panels. It is not watercolor, so it's mixed media paper, but I also created the cards. So for these panels, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 2 different colors of the spectrum, and for one I'm going to use silver. So what I'm doing is, once I cut the panel, I'm going to put it on my little watercolor palette from Altenew, and I'm going to wet the entire surface, and then I'm going to come with the silver tone. Now for the silver, I make sure that I shake it really well, really well, because I want the shimmer powder to mix in the watercolor. And once I shook it, I'm just gonna, like I said, I wet the entire paper, and I clean in with a flat brush and just created sort of an ombre effect on the paper. And I'm gonna set it aside to dry. Now for the second panel, I'm gonna go into a warm tone. So I chose warm sunrise for this. Sunrise or sunshine. Again, I am gonna wet the entire paper, but my idea was to start creating drips on the paper. So you're gonna see that I'm gonna add the pigment just to the top of the paper, but once I put it on, did not like it, so I'm gonna come in again with a flat watercolor brush, so that means it has soft bristles, and I'm gonna kind of drag the paint from the top of the paper, or the panel in this case, down, but I'm not gonna fill the entire page with color. So it's gonna create sort of a soft arch in the middle of the page, which is gonna help me or setting up the space where I'm gonna add my sentiment. And I love how this turned out. So you're gonna see how simple it is. I'm just gonna make sure that I add the pigment at the top and kind of drag it down, and I'm gonna set it aside to dry. Now, took no time to dry, and I'm gonna go ahead and start building my cards. So for the one that I added the silver background, I'm gonna glue it. It's gonna become a landscape card. So you're gonna see that I'm gonna flip it. The sentiments that I'm gonna use for both the cards are gonna be, come from the Weekend Doodles stamp set, and I really love the sentiments that it has. So my idea for the silver card was to have kind of a diagonal look, but once I put the sentiment and the flower, I think I just clustered them to the right corner of the panel, and I love how this looks. So you're gonna see that once I stamp my sentiment, I'm gonna add some foam adhesive behind the flowers just to create the lift, and then I'm gonna add a little bit, I add just a few black gems that I had in my stash, and that's about it. Love how this turned out. Now for the yellow card, or the warm sunshine card that I have, I'm gonna use just one of the images. Again, I'm stamping a sentiment from the Weekend Doodles stamp set using black obsidian ink, and then again I'm gonna use some foam adhesive to prop it. Now I added my sentiment in that little kind of whitish space that I was left at the bottom of the card panel from dragging the paint down. Again, I'm gonna glue it straight onto my card base, add some foam adhesive behind the image, or the flower in this case, and then I'm gonna bring a few these are not enamel dots, these are like little gems. They're see-through, but they're green and yellow, and I'm just gonna place them around the sentiment and the flower, just kind of so it guides your eye from the flower onto the sentiment. And that's about it. I love how this turned out. It did take some time to put together. Like I said, it took me over an hour to just detail the flowers, but then after that it was super easy, and I hope you try it. Make sure you check the refills. If you don't have the watercolor brushes, which I don't have either, actually having the refills is a great option. You can control the amount of liquid watercolor that you add to your projects, and you can also create backgrounds with it, so which is a plus. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to check the blog, because there's a chance of winning gift certificates. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. Take care.